we have heard some really absurd justifications as well on why this incident happened. I mean, to strip journalists down to their underwear inside a police station in this manner was very clearly intended to humiliate them. What was the provocation for this kind of a treatment to journalists?
Yeah, absolutely. It was entirely shocking and surprising when such pictures comes out inside the lockup. And you know that earlier the question was being asked that isn't it a kind of formality just for line attached to officers in this case, and a kind of action has been taken by the state government. That's why opposition put the question on this kind of action of the state government, because this was not enough, and opposition was asking for some strict action, and consequently, we also put this story as priority since yesterday, and number of times we played this story. Now the consequences are there. Definitely, number of orders have been issued for some strict action. You know that SI, sub-inspector and Thana in charge, both have been suspended, and in afternoon, just before that, this order, the letter was, means so-called notice from the Madhya Pradesh Human Rights Commission served to the DGP of Madhya Pradesh and IG of Riva. So this is exactly what we can understand. Number of actions have been taken so far, and number of organizations which are related to the media or other social organizations, and they are also putting caution on such kind of misconduct with the journalist and 7 others inside the lockup, and they were compelled for taking off their clothes or stripping down their clothes inside the lockup, and internal inquiry has been also ordered. So what all the reports will come out, that is other issue, but we can understand this these kind of pictures definitely shook everybody whoever see that this is whole a kind of police behavior with those who were in the custody in Sindhi district inside the lockup. And now definitely action has been taken by the state government also by suspending both the officers, and opposition is still asking question to remove the brass administrative officers like SP and DM of the district. So we can understand this is whole happening, which is quite disturbing one.
Goes across that police officers cannot get away with this kind of high-handedness on journalists. Govind, thank you for joining us. And we heard some other kind of statements also coming when media spoke to these police officers, where some of them said it's a usual practice. Look at that picture where you see journalists being stripped to their underwear and then stuffed inside a lockup. Of course, we're not putting out all the pictures that we have access, but this is just to show the level of threat and intimidation tactics that police use. Another officer apparently told reporters that it is not unusual for the accused to be stripped down to their underwear, and also said that in fact said that the clothes were removed apparently for their safety, so that they do not commit suicide. This kind of absurd justification was offered for what happened there in Sindhi. Let me introduce, joining us here on the program, Mr. Arvind Jain, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Deepak Tiwari, journalist and author, and Mr. Anil Tyagi, who's a member of the Editors Guild. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Before we go ahead with the discussion, let's listen in to what the SP of Sindhi had to say earlier about this incident.
कुछ वीडियो ऐसे इसमें फेसबुक पे और विभिन्न सोशल मीडिया पर ऐसे आए हैं कुछ आपत्तिजनक असम्मानजनक फोटो जो उनके अंडर गारमेंट्स के साथ थे, तो वो निश्चित रूप से आपत्तिजनक है और मैं भी इसकी बहुत कड़ी निंदा करता हूँ। मैंने इसमें लापरवाही के लिए हमारे थाना प्रभारी मनोज सोनी और थाना प्रभारी एमिलिया जो अभिषेक सिंह को उनको निलंबित करके लाइन अटैच किया है, और इसकी जांच हमारी एडिशनल एसपी भी कर रही है। अभी लेकिन लेटेस्ट मेरे पास जानकारी है कि इसकी उच्च स्तरीय जांच भोपाल से भी चालू हुई है। इसमें एसएसपी रेडियो अमित सिंह इसकी ग्रिम जांच कर रहे हैं। वो आएंगे, पूरी जांच करेंगे, पूरी वस्तुस्थिति क्लियर करेंगे।
Mr. Deepak Tiwari, if I can begin with you, since you would have better information on what exactly happened in Madhya Pradesh, tell us, for the simple reason that we just heard the SP, of course, saying that action has been taken, but is it enough? And this is not the first case of police brutality on journalists, but how is it that officers can think that they can go to this extent Is there always a case of trying to get back at them, or is there some sort of a political motive behind it? What was the reason that such a inhuman treatment was meted out to these journalists?
You see, this is not new to Madhya Pradesh. What has happened now? For last 2-3 years, when Shivraj Singh became chief minister after pulling down that Congress government, after so many people they switched sides.
Yes.
So he's trying to create a new image of himself. He wants to project himself as a very hardcore administrator and emulating himself on the lines of Uttar Pradesh chief minister. So what happened in Madhya Pradesh a few months back? They started bulldozing the houses of people who were accused in some crime. If something small somebody did it, they simply razed his house. Then for every such action of the government, you need to have police. And police will support you unless you support such police officers. So this trend has started. In CP, there is this BJP MLA. These journalists, government is claiming that they are YouTube journalists. What is YouTube journalist? Journalist is a journalist. They did some story which went against this BJP MLA. So this BJP MLA, he went to police and complained about them. So all these journalists, they were rounded up to a police station, and this kind of treatment was given to them. Before this, there have been so many instances in Rajgarh. FIRs have been lodged against journalists because they wrote against government doctor, because they showed stories which went against government during that COVID period. So this is new normal for Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh has never been like this. But Shivraj Singh in his 4th term, in order to project himself as a very, no-nonsense kind of chief minister, he's doing all these things. Otherwise, Madhya Pradesh was a very peaceful state. I mean, police behaved. I mean, there have been instances, but now this has become a new normal.
Which is not acceptable, Mr. Tiwari, and therefore we've decided to take this up and expose how the police is trying to get away with this kind of high-handedness. In fact, the Editors Guild has once again flagged this off, has written to the Home Ministry. Mr. Tyagi, can you tell us, what exactly the Editors Guild can do? There have been instances before. We've seen the tweets and there are letters written to the Home Ministry, but I don't think much of action follows after that. Can this continue, or can we do something about it?
No, Editors Guild has Seema Mustafa and Sanjay Kapoor. The Seema Mustafa is the president and Sanjay Kapoor is the general secretary. They have discussed among the members. Today, every members have received a letter condemning this incident and this horrific incident. And we are discussing the issues and as a body, because as the Editors Guild doesn't have any legal locus standi, but we have the right, and we take up all these matters at the right platform and bring it out to the attention to the Home Minister, the Prime Minister, and the Chief Ministers. Even myself, yesterday itself, the moment it came to my notice, I did the tweeting and brought it out to the notice of the DGP Madhya Pradesh and the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. So whatever and the day before yesterday, in the press club, we had a very big meeting explaining the whole the things and condemning all the things. But the issue is, the paradox is that why this is happening, that you must discuss it also. Because everybody is taking the constitution in their hand. Nobody is following the letter and the spirit of the constitution. Whatever the procedures are laid down, they are not following. They think it is a village. India is a huge country. The people are watching these kind of incidents, and they should be ashamed, by doing this all the things. And
it's not one incident, sir. There are 2 instances that has happened back to back. It's not just Madhya Pradesh, in Odisha as well. And I would ask, my team to put out those pictures where you have a journalist lying on a hospital bed and his legs are chained to the bed, apparently on the instruction of a police officer, and he had an axe to grind. I mean, he had a chip on his shoulder. He was trying to get back at this man. Precisely because of that, this kind of a chaining of a journalist also. This is a new law again. Mr. Arvind Jain, these pictures are disturbing. And this is not the first time. Like, we've put out information on how many cases have happened this year alone. But for the police force to indulge in this kind of assault and abuse and follow no service rules whatsoever, what is the kind of action that can be taken as a deterrent on these officers?
No, Afrida, you are asking to Arvind Jain?
Yes, Mr. Jain, please go ahead.
Okay, please. Now.
They should be immediately placed under suspension. They should be removed from the police station, and very deterrent action, departmental action should be taken against them, which can lead even to the dismissal, to their dismissal. I want that action, very strong action, should be taken again in both the cases, because both the cases are very bad, and they create a very bad image of the police in the eyes of the public, and this is not done at all. How can you strip a person like this? 7-8 persons are standing like this in the lockup. This is absolutely shameful. Action should be taken by the police against notorious criminals, against mafias. If you take action against mafias, people welcome it. But if you will take action against law-abiding people, he might not be praising you in the media, the journalist, but it doesn't mean that you will take law in your hands and you will behave like this. Just see this picture where a journalist has been chained. I read in the newspaper today in Hindu or Times of India that there was some accident with some home guard, and home guard's motorcycle got slightly damaged. But this is no way to behave with a person. How can government allow it? Such people should be thrown out of the service.
And in the second case, Mr. Jain, let me tell you very clearly that here is a 50-year-old journalist. He had done a report on smuggling, on brown sugar smuggling in that area. Therefore, this is again, yes, the journalist's version, but it is very, very believable that it could have happened that way. That is the reason why this officer decided to get back at him. The journalist was arrested in an assault case. We are not saying that there was no case against him. There could have been a case against him. But how fair is it to do this kind of trying to get back and teach a lesson for exposing a crime? It is a journalist's duty to expose the establishment if there is wrongdoing. This gentleman, Loknath Dale, for doing his job, was first booked in an assault case. We don't know the merits of that case. And then he was in this hospital bed where he is chained up. Now, that's the reality we are exposing here for our viewers. Mr. Deepak Tiwari, in Madhya Pradesh, you are saying, you were in a way suggesting that the ruling party is looking the other way. Are you saying that the political leadership is not doing enough to ensure safety for journalists in Madhya Pradesh?
Of late, this had happened. There have been so many instances when journalists, they have been abused by the local authorities. There have been instances when journalists, at every level, and this has started, as I said, everything starts from the political leadership. All these administrative people, they always follow, they always behave as per the will of their leader. And of late, this had started in Madhya Pradesh, and it is so shameful. Because, we never thought Madhya Pradesh was the state where, there was a kind of journalists, they always got that space. But as I said, that now this is new normal, and this has started during last 3-4 years. And the way, very interestingly, the person in charge of public relations in Madhya Pradesh is a police officer. I'm not saying that IPS officers, they cannot handle public relations, but there was a system, and for the first time in the history of Madhya Pradesh, an IPS officer, he is in charge of public relations. So you can imagine, how the things they are working. And then also, Madhya Pradesh, as they say, was the state where journalists, they had a very cozy relationship with media, with establishment. Again, that was wrong. But this kind of relationship, where now journalists, they have become enemy number one of government, this is something unbelievable.
Okay. Mr. Anil Tyagi, what action are you expecting from the Home Ministry? And also give us the larger picture here as a journalist. we must explain to our viewers what happens if you try to demolish journalism in this manner, if you attack the fourth pillar of democracy. What are the consequences in the long run? Who are you trying to intimidate, and what would happen to a society when you try to silence the journalists, threaten them, intimidate them for doing their jobs? Mr. Tyagi.
Tell you quickly that in the state, if you know the state functioning, MLA must have complained to the chief minister that these journalists are harassing me, because local police cannot take action on the premise of the complaint of the MLA. And I believe, and I charge also here on your dais, that there must be a tacit consent by the chief minister's office to put and round all the journalists there and take the action. Now, because it has boomeranged on their face and it has been exposed publicly, so the directions have gone to just wash off this by suspending the local police officers, which don't have. I know the system of the state, how the system functions. Without chief minister's consent, nothing moves like this, especially as far as the journalists are concerned. Now, second thing is that whatever is happening in the whole country is a new regime, kind of a new perception in the thing that the journalists are the enemy of the society. I must tell you, and the people must understand, we are the safety walls.
Yes.
If this safety valve is busted on this, these politicians and the bureaucrats will lead this country to where nobody knows about it. So this safety wall has to be maintained. It has to be protected by the constitutionally, and nobody can ask the source. Nobody can punish us like this. The courts are there. The normal, it is not a United Arab Emirates or the dictatorship country. It is a democratic country. The democratic process should be followed. If the people will not follow the constitution and the democratic process, I do not know where the things will go there. We are discussing in the Editors Guild. We are in touch, though I am not officially supposed to speak on behalf of the Editors Guild, but we are discussing every day with the Seema Mustafa and other colleagues, and we are concerned about it.
The fact of the matter is, sir, for any taxpayer, it is the duty of the journalist to seek accountability for the money that is paid by the citizen to the government. What happens to the money, the hard-earned money that we pay from our salaries? The moment a journalist seeks accountability and answerability, he has to face the music. Is that the message that we are sending? It's a very dangerous message. I'm glad, Mr. Tyagi, you pointed it out, that we are the safety wall and you cannot break down this wall for any healthy society. I would like to give quick last word to Mr. Arvind Jain, also to tell us a bit about where is the line that police is supposed to draw. There would be some regulation and service guidelines where here you have the officers saying, well, we strip criminals all the time. What is new? Why is that wrong, sir?
I agree to some extent with Mr. Tyagi that SHO and sub-inspector on their own, they cannot indulge in this kind of high-handedness. There must have been instructions from somewhere, from either political leadership or from higher police echelons, that these people should be taught a lesson. And it is a very bad precedent. They have brought very bad name to the entire force and to the entire state and to the leadership, BJP leadership in MP and in Odisha. Such instances, there shouldn't be a repeat of it. We had sometimes bad relations with the journalists, because I felt at times that bad news item has been published without any basis. But it doesn't mean that we had any grudge against such people or we took action against such people. They were always welcome, and at times they used to publish very good news also, very lauding the police role. So it's all in the game, and generally police people have very good relations with the journalists. Although some journalists, I can say that at Thana level they indulge in all sorts of things, and we used to tell police station people that keep away from such people. They shouldn't act as dalals,
yes,
and you shouldn't get trapped into it. But at the same time, it's called the fourth estate, and
yes,
we should respect them.
Absolutely, and I take your point, sir, that journalists and law enforcement are supposed to work in tandem. It is our collective duty to punish the wrongdoing, to expose the wrongdoing.
There is a one
Quickly,
point.
sir. Go ahead, sir.
Insensitivity to ask the question is increasing day by day, which is not a normal, healthy process, political process of any democratic country. Asking a question is a birthright of the journalist. If you don't want to respond, don't respond. But this is not the way to behave.
Absolutely, and that's the point I was making. We are the eyes and ears of the society. Allow us to be the watchdog, because that is how a healthy society will thrive. It is necessary for a modern civilization to function, to have journalists safe in doing their duties, their basic duties. They should not be having to face this kind of brutality. Certainly not from the law enforcement, from the police. That is, after all, responsible for protecting the citizenry. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Mr. Arvind Jain, Deepak Tiwari and Anil Tyagi. Thanks very much. Let's take a short break here. News and updates continue. On the other side, stay with me.